if you try to reach in the depths of your mind, this time when you've been a kid, like an actual kid, I'm not talking about being a teenager, but like a kid. If you think about all the fantasies you lived in, just try to think about it. Like, you had toys, right? You had toys, you had dolls, you had plush toys. And you've been playing with them. Pretending that things are different than they're not. And the very fact that the reality was different than what you had in your mind didn't really bother you all too much, did it? So you've been running around, if you've been one of those outdoor kids. I hardly have been myself, but this was also my experience for some time at least. Running around with a stick pretending it's a sword. Running around with a stick pretending it's a claymore, it's a wand, it's a wooden spoon you can cook with. It's a giant dildo, probably not if you've been a normal kid. I've been normal enough not to know what dildo is, but... So you're pretending. The whole play is basically taking place in your mind. You running around with a stick isn't really what brings you joy. Isn't really what is fun. What is fun is mental projections swirling inside your head. This is what is fun. This is what is pleasure. And the very fact that this, wooden stick is not a sword. Hey, you've been a kid, but you haven't been a fucking dumbass. You did know that it's not a sword. You've been pretending. You've been just pretending. Okay? And it was fun to pretend. It was fun to live in your head. It was fun to have this image of you being a hero on an adventure, all doing all this crazy stuff. Then you became a teenager. And you discovered romantic side of us being animals. And maybe it was the first time for you. Maybe it was something different. But for me, I think it was the first time when I fell in love. I was, fucking 13, 14, 12. I don't even know. I'm not even sure. No, I was fucking younger than that. Doesn't really matter. You know how it is, kids falling in love, right? So, I remember one thing. I remember that when I fell in love with a girl in primary school, fantasizing about spending time with her in a very innocent way, I was a kid, was very pleasant to my mind. It was very pleasant. I remember that is kind of an embarrassing memory, but hey, that's the fun, sharing with those things publicly. If they're embarrassing, there's fun. So there you go. I remember sitting on the balcony and imagining my beloved one on one of the roofs in the buildings in front of me, and she wasn't doing really anything in there. And I think this is the embarrassing part. She was just there. I like to imagine her being there looking at me, and I was looking at her, and that was it. That was my pleasure. That was my pleasure, right? And I loved it. But as I was growing up, the split struck me. That what is in my head is not the reality, and somehow I turned it into a problem. Okay? So if I was imagining me with that girl holding hands, and that it was not a reality, or maybe this poor girl laying on the roof and freezing to death, and I was like, hey, it's not really happening, it's not true, oh my god, it sucks. How the hell the thought that it sucks stuck in my head? How the hell everybody have been confirming this story? Why the fuck it sucks? Why the girl that I am in love with? Fantasy is not enough. It was always enough. When you're a kid, it is always enough. Fantasizing about whatever. Fantasizing about you being a different person and doing different stuff, and circumstances being simply different. It was always enough to fantasize, to have fun out of it, for it to be fulfilling enough. And then at some point, when you're growing up, you realize, hey, it's not true. Oh my god, it sucks. So what do? You abandon all those games that you know you can't turn into reality. And the ones that you can turn into reality, you use as a weapon to hurt yourself. Because you keep telling yourself, that is not happening. That is not happening. So I remember, for example, having a crush on a girl in high school. And it took me like 2 years. I actually ended up being with her. And I've been with her for like 5 years. But for the first 2 years, I've been just torturing myself, crying into the pillow, listening to sad emo songs. I was listening a lot to Placebo. I still listen to Placebo a lot, but not for emotional reasons, not to hurt myself. But I was so in pain that I cannot be with her, that I cannot hold her, that I cannot kiss her. I can't be with her. I was also torturing myself at that moment that I am not an accomplished writer. I did publish a book eventually, right after I finished high school. It was absolute terrible disaster. It was terrible disaster, honestly. Just as badly as selling a book can go, this is how it went, honestly. Only one person bought a book. It was my uncle. It was the only sold book out of, like, I think, 500 copies or what, 1,000 copies printed, something like that. Absolute disaster, man. Fantasizing about me being an accomplished writer, and I used to fantasize about people doing interviews with me because I was so accomplished, I was so successful. It was so pleasant for me to fantasize about it, and then right after that, fucking pain that it's not true. That's what the voice in my head was telling me. And you know what? It was fucking dumb. Because it was true. Because it was about fantasy from the very beginning. Me being with that girl, me being an accomplished writer, me being a fucking paladin of a golden order. I don't know, like leading crusades or some shit. This fantasy was a goal in itself. I don't know why. At some point, my dumb head came up with an idea that the desire got to be realized in the real world. Otherwise, it's not true. As a kid, I had exactly the same desires. I don't believe they were any different. The same desires about being a warrior, being a paladin, being a druid, being a hero, being with a girl and seeing her on the rooftop. It's fucking dumb, but who cares? It's my fantasy, my desire, not yours, you dumbass. Who cares? And then at some point, I'm like, no, it gotta have a reflection in reality, and if it doesn't, it's not true, and I'm hurting myself that it doesn't. It's fucking bollocks. It's goddamn bollocks, I'm telling you. Goddamn bollocks. And every single person I ever found has been confirming this story. I was like, oh, you know, I wish to be an accomplished writer. I wish to really publish a book. It sucks that you know, it didn't happen. And people are like, yeah, you gotta do something about it. Yeah, right? You gotta have a plan. You gotta follow your dreams. You know, you gotta work on it. And at this point, my desires became my masters. At that very point, when I decided that image in my head gotta have a reflection in reality, despite the fact that I had no proof that it is even fucking possible. And how would it even work? How would it even work? How do you projectile dreams and desires into the real world? How dumb idea that is. That desires need to be fulfilled. No. That fulfillment of desires ultimately means trying to replicate the image in your head in the physical world around you. That's fucking dumb. So when you have a desire in your head, you know, your inner child, there is a term in psychology that it means exactly that, your inner child. Just try to listen to it and take care of it as you'd really care about child. This little child is just want to wave around its stick and pretend it's a sword, and it's very, very, very fucking happy just with the image in its head, just with pretending. It doesn't have to be a sword. You're not taking a child and trying to make a blacksmith out of it. You're not telling a kid, hey kid, it's not a real sword. You can't be happy yet. In order to be happy, you need to forge real sword, out of iron or out of steel. And until you do it, you can't be happy. You're not telling a child things like that. So calm down, because maybe, just maybe, you made a mistake. Maybe you made a mistake by thinking that whatever you have in your head, you got to have in front of your eyes, alright? Because maybe whatever is in your head is just good enough the way it is in your head, so close your eyes, let your mind flow, enjoy the images, enjoy the experience, as you did enjoy it as a child, without asking for anything else. Enjoy the surfing of your thoughts. And come back there as often as you can. But stop torturing yourself by trying to forge your thoughts into real outside world material. Because there is no confirmation that it is even possible. And it is pretty possible to me that we just made one giant mistake, that this is what you should do with your suffering, with your desires. But in fact, it only creates unnecessary suffering. So think about that, because maybe we all just fucking fooled ourselves. What the fuck, man? Being 6-year-old, we were far smarter than we are right now. What the fuck happened along the way, honestly?